O chosen one. Someone watched it all. Someone was watching what you were reacting to when people called you crazy, and he saw everything. When people were rewriting history, someone was recording the truth in a place they could not reach. When you doubted your own integrity, someone was protecting the evidence they tried to erase. God was a silent witness in every room where you were numerically the key. And today, his silence is broken. This is not a video that found you by chance through an algorithm. This moment was planned by something deeper. The Holy Spirit has diverted your attention from thousands of distractions and led you to this very place right now. This is because there is a message sealed with your name. It is not a metaphor, but words written by God specifically for you. These are words that have been burning in the archives of heaven, waiting for this appointed time. And that time has just arrived. You must understand what is happening now. This is the beginning of your injustice being resolved and your honor being restored. It is not the future, or sometime in the future. Right now, as you sit here, your case is being handled in the court of the invisible spiritual world. All their accusations that you are too sensitive, that you are merely imagining things, or that you are the problem, are being weighed against a single testimony. God's testimony, the Holy Witness, is speaking. And his words carry more weight than all the voices that tried to bury you. But before moving on, there is something you must know. This is not to prove them wrong. This is about reclaiming the self you have lost. They did not simply gaslight you. They doubted everything, apologized for your very existence, and replaced you with a version of yourself that merely played a role to maintain peace, rather than your true self. But God has preserved your original self, and now he intends to return it. In the next few minutes, something will change within you. It is not because I speak well. It is because the Holy Spirit is using these words as a tool to convey something your soul has been crying out for and longing for. It is acknowledgement from the one who actually witnessed everything. And when his voice aloud proclaims the truth, your body will recognize it. The lies you have been carrying will be singled out, isolated, and completely eliminated. Not through your efforts, but through enlightenment. Please subscribe to join the thousands of people watching the process of your honor being restored in real time. If you felt a movement in your heart when I said that someone saw everything, please like this post. Leave a comment stating that he saw it as a sign that you are ready to accept what heaven is now about to confirm. Now feel how your jaw feels. Is it clenched tightly? That tension is not anxiety. It is what your body remembers. Every time someone made you doubt your cognitive abilities, every time they looked at you and gave you a look that indicated you were overreacting again, you had to clench your jaw shut because you could not say what needed to be said. You swallowed those words, and your body stored them. Do not let it go yet. Let it speak. Because that tension is proof. It is evidence that something happened that your body refuses to let go of, even if your mind tried to forget. You know the exact conversation at the very moment I speak. You were there, or sitting there, and you spoke of what you saw and what you experienced. But they didn't simply disagree with you. They looked at you as if you had lost your sense of reality, as if you were making everything up, as if you were the problem. And this is what happened to you at that moment. Your heart felt empty, as if someone had reached out and dug up your hand. You tried to explain again and make them understand, but they used every word you spat out as grounds to attack you. You are too sensitive. You think too deeply. You are always like this. You need therapy. And the most terrible thing is that as time passed, even you began to believe their words. Now there is a whispering voice in your head. Maybe I imagined this. Maybe I really am too sensitive. Maybe they are right, and maybe I am the problem. Because that voice has lingered there for so long, you believe it is your own voice. No, it is their voice. It is what they planted. And it has grown inside your mind like a parasite, feeding on every moment you doubted yourself. But there is something they did not know, something they could not see. God was in that room. When they called you crazy, He was right beside you. He saw what you saw. He heard what you heard. And He left a record. Not to punish them, but to prove that you were right. The most painful part of gaslighting is not hearing that you are wrong. It is that no one believes you, even though you were right. It is being treated as blind, even though you are clearly seeing something. It is being treated as a delusional person, even though you know the truth. That is the wound. That is what is bleeding. You have struggled to live on, carrying it alone and pretending to be normal and unaffected, acknowledging this open wound. But now, whenever someone ignores your words, even over the most trivial matter, that wound reopens. Whenever you share something and someone says, "That's really true," the pain surges back. This is because it is not about this very moment. It is about all the moments that made them doubt themselves. Let me tell you what happened in the spiritual realm while that conversation was going back and forth. While they were speaking, another voice was speaking. It was a voice they could not hear. The Holy Spirit stood between you and their words, recording and witnessing. This is because God does not merely see what happens, but sees why it happens. He saw their fear disguised as worry. He saw their control disguised as care. He saw their gaslighting disguised as help. And He waited. It is not because of indifference, but because timing matters. If He had cleared your name too early when you still needed their acknowledgement, you would have misused it. You would have shoved it in their faces, saying, "See, I was right." And that would have turned you into just like them. However, something has recently changed within you. You no longer feel the need to prove them wrong. You stopped practicing your defense while showering. You stopped imagining a conversation where they finally admit you were right. You let it go. Not because they deserved it, but because you were tired of carrying that heavy burden. That letting go was the signal. The very moment you laid down the desire to clear your name for the sake of revenge, you were ready to accept the resolution of your grievances for true restoration. Now there is one thing you must understand regarding the letter God wrote to you. This letter was not written yesterday. It was not written last week. This letter has been in the archives of heaven long before they could tell you you were wrong. God knew this moment would come. He foresaw that they would dismiss you and wrote down your restoration of honor in advance. However, there is something dangerous in this letter. It is not dangerous to you, but to the false stories they have fabricated. This is because the moment you read God's word about Himself, the moment you hear the truth of the events written from His perspective, their false stories will crumble. And they too know to some extent, consciously or unconsciously, that if God speaks, their stories will shatter into pieces. That is why this message nearly disappeared 3 times before reaching you. That is the very reason something distracted your attention every time you were on the verge of discovering this truth. It was because phone calls, sudden crises, doubts, and forces of darkness recognized your name written on this envelope and tried to intercept it. But they failed. You are here now. Now the seal will be broken. And the contents within will return to you what they took away. Not mere reputation, but something deeper. It is the ability to believe in yourself. Before showing you the contents of the letter, I must prepare you for what will happen when you receive it. Restoring your honor is not an easy process. At first, it will not be relief. At first, it will be mourning. It is mourning for your past self, who had to live for years doing nothing but apologizing, even though you clearly saw the situation. It is mourning for the time lost doubting yourself. It is mourning for the time you had to forcibly distort your true self to maintain relationships. But once that time of mourning passes, something else comes. It is clarity. Clarity that requires no confirmation from anyone else. Clarity that allows you to stand tall on your own. And that is what this letter contains. It is not mere acknowledgement, but authority. It is the authority to look at all false accusations and declare them null and void with truth, not anger. Please stay with me until the end of this video, because I will show you exactly what will happen within the first 2 hours after you receive these words. I will tell you about 3 specific signs of confirmation that have already begun to move. I will provide you with an actual timeline of when the first domino will fall. And I will teach you 3 actions you must absolutely never take from now on that could ruin your own restoration of honor. This is not theory. This is activation. If you leave now, you will miss the moment when your freedom is actually realized. I will take you back to that most terrible moment. You know it too. You were sitting, or perhaps standing, and you almost spoke the truth out loud. What you saw, what you knew. Your mouth opened, and words lingered on the lips. But you looked at their faces. You saw that expression mixed with impatience and pity, and in the end, you swallowed those words. You felt them scrape and tear as they traveled down your throat like shards of glass. And instead you said, "No, I might be wrong." At that very moment, something inside you shattered. Not dramatically, but quietly, like a fine crack in the foundation. And every time you swallowed the truth to maintain your peace, that crack widened. Now your body carries that memory. You feel it whenever you try to speak up, even about the most trivial matters. The tightening of your throat. That voice saying, "But they won't understand." It is not wisdom. It is trauma. And it has dominated your life. But there is something you must know. God was there at that very specific moment when you swallowed those words. He stood behind you, placed his hand on your shoulder, and took in all the words you could not say. He kept and preserved them. Because someday, and that day is coming, you will need those words again. In Psalm 142, David wrote, "I look to the right and see no one who knows me, no refuge, no one to care for my soul." You must know that feeling of looking around the room and realizing that you are utterly alone in your reality. Everyone else agreed on their own version of the event, and you are the only one who remembers it differently. However, there is something David failed to see at that moment. God was at his right hand. He was watching over everything from the blind spot on the right, not from the front where he was looking. The Hebrew word translated as care in that verse is netar. It does not simply mean to be concerned. It means to protect, to watch over, and to pay attention. David thought that no one cared. But God was so focused on him that he was protecting even those minute details. David thought that no one had noticed. That is exactly who you are right now. Do you think you endured those moments alone? No. God was in your blind spot. He was recording everything they said, everything you did not say, and everything they pretended never happened. He possesses the spiritual teachings and now intends to present them to you, not to them. This is because you are the one who must see them. You must know that what you experienced was real, that your cognitive abilities were not distorted, and that you are not insane. The moment you realize this, the moment God confirms even the single memory you doubted, everything changes. The foundation of their false stories crumbles, and you rise again for the truth. Now, I must speak about God's silence. You have misinterpreted it. You thought his silence meant he was not interested in you, or, worse, that he saw what happened and agreed with them. You thought he looked at you and thought, okay, you're too peculiar, you're too sensitive. Maybe they're... Right? That is a lie. And that lie was gnawing away at you. Because if God saw everything and remained silent, it means you were truly wrong. It means they were truly right. It means you cannot trust that even God will clearly see your situation. But the truth is this. Isaiah 30:18 says, "But the Lord waits to be gracious to you. He rises up to have mercy on you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him." Read this verse again in your heart. The Lord waits. It is not because he is slow. It is not because he has forgotten. It is because he is strategic. The Hebrew word for wait here is chaka. This means to wait with a purpose, to remain for the appropriate time, and to intentionally step back. God did not ignore you. He was waiting for the exact right moment to move. Why? To be gracious to you. Not to them, but to you. His silence did not mean he agreed with their story. It was to protect your story. If your honor had been restored too early, when you were still wounded and still in need of their acknowledgement, you would have used it as a weapon to return the hurt to them, and it would have poisoned your healing. But now you are different. You have walked through the fire. You have sat in silence. You have let them go in your heart, not because they deserved it, but because you deserve peace. And that inner transformation is exactly what heaven has been waiting for. The appointed time has just arrived. It is not their time, but your time. It is the moment when the restoration of honor shifts from proving them wrong to reclaiming what is yours, your peace, your clarity, and your ability to believe in yourself. That is what is being returned to you now. God's silence was never a rejection, it was precision. He waited until you were ready to accept what He was about to do. For what is coming is not merely the resolution of a grievance, but a transformation. You are trying to move forward as your true self, one that does not need their verification, in order to know what is real. And that is precisely the being you were always meant to be. I mean the letter I mentioned at the beginning, that letter with your name on it. It is not a letter of apology from God. It is not a letter saying sorry for taking too long. It is a letter explaining why waiting was necessary, why the silence was strategic, and why you had to pass through that valley to receive what was on the other side. And this letter begins with 2 words. When you hear those words, everything will make sense. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of self-doubt will find its place. The first word is beloved. That is the first word. Chosen one, servant. Not even a child. Beloved, the one I love, the one I have fallen in love with. This is how God calls you in this letter. And the second word is mine. My beloved, mine, possessive, jealous, and protective, just as if He were claiming ownership of you, as if He were engraving your name in a place where everyone can see. This is not an official decree written by a distant God. This is a letter from a lover to someone who has doubted whether they even stand out. I will read the entire text to you. As I read, I ask that you listen with the voice that wrote it. It is not the voice of a judge. It is not the voice of a disappointed parent. It is the voice of the one who has watched over you, grieved for you, and waited only for the moment when He could finally speak without you running away. Imagine this in your mind right now. Your name is written in handwriting on the front of an old parchment envelope. When you open the envelope, the scent of the sanctuary, medicine, and frankincense was released. This letter was written where the throne is, and it says, "My beloved end." You who weep at 3 a.m. when you think everyone is asleep. You who feel apologetic even for taking your place in the room to which you were invited. Oh, you who practice conversation in the shower to find the right words for them to finally listen to you, I have seen you. I see you. I have never stopped looking at you. You must understand what just happened. God has just referred to very specific moments in your life. Moments you thought were private, moments you thought no one saw, tears at 3 a.m., an apology for existing, practice in the shower. If even one of these touched your heart, it is Him. It is the Holy Spirit confirming, yes, I was there. You did not imagine this connection. In Song of Solomon 2:14, God says, Let me see your face. Let me hear your voice. Your voice is sweet and your face is beautiful. The Hebrew word for face is fame. This does not simply mean a physical face. It means your presence, your essence, the real you that you hide from everyone else. God is saying this. Show me your true self. Not the version you act for others, but the version where you learn to shrink yourself, apologize, and withdraw. I mean, the real you who appears at 3 a.m. when no one is watching, that is the very self I love. That is also the very self to whom I am writing this letter. And here lies the reason why this part hurt you the most. They said, that side of you was too excessive, too intense, too sensitive, and too emotional. They told you to lower your tone, act more rationally, and stop being so peculiar. And you believed them. You began to hide that side of yourself, even from yourself. But while you were acting, God was preserving your original self. He was safely guarding your true, intense self that feels everything deeply. And now He intends to return it to you. The transformation continues. This part will hurt before it is healed. This is because God is going to do the very thing you feared most. He will bring out specific memories you tried to forget, those moments that still turn your stomach whenever they unexpectedly surface. The letter says, that Tuesday, I was with you in the parking lot. You had the engine running and sat in the car for 47 minutes. You didn't turn on the radio, didn't check your phone, just stared at the steering wheel. And I heard what you were thinking. I'm so exhausted. I don't know if I can keep this going. What if they're right? What if I'm the problem? I was with you at the kitchen sink at midnight. You were washing a cup that didn't even need washing, because you had to move your hands, at least. Because if you stopped moving, you would have to fully face the emotions you were feeling. And you mumbled in a voice so small that even you could barely hear it. Please let someone see the truth. Just once. I was also with you in your workplace restroom. That day, when you locked the stall door and went inside not because you needed to use the restroom, but because you needed 60 seconds where no one could see your face, you bit your lip to keep from making a sound, counting 10, 20, 30, trying to catch your breath before stepping back outside to act as if everything was fine. If reading this has tightened your throat, please leave a comment right now saying that you saw it. This is not something I am speculating on. This is the Holy Spirit revealing what He has seen, and He does so for a reason. You must realize that those moments were not invisible. You were not alone there. God was there, recording, witnessing, and watching over everything. Psalm 56 verses 8 says, "You have counted my wanderings, put my tears in your bottle." Are they not recorded in your book? In ancient Middle Eastern culture, when someone died, their family collected the deceased's tears in a jar to serve as a monument. It was a way of saying, your sorrow was important. Your pain was real. We keep the evidence that you suffered. God does this for you while you are still alive. He has gathered every tear you shed, every sleepless night, and every moment you were crushed by their impurity. Not as punishment, but as evidence. Proof that something happened to you. proof that your suffering is real and proof that will be presented when the time comes for your name to be cleansed. However, the content of the letter shifts here. God does not stop at acknowledging that you suffered. He explains why they failed to see what you saw. And this explanation will reconstruct everything. The letter states, "They called you insane because they could not perceive what you perceived." This is not a moral flaw of yours. It was a difference in frequency. You were sensing something in a spiritual atmosphere that was not yet tuned for them to perceive. It is like a dog hearing a whistle that humans cannot hear. You are not broken. You are simply tuned differently. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, "The natural man does not receive the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot understand them, because they are spiritually discerned." Read this verse again in your mind. They cannot understand them. It is not that they chose not to know. It is that they lack the ability to know. Their spiritual receptors were not activated. They were operating relying solely on carnal perception. So when you entered the room and felt heaviness, tension, or a wrong energy in the atmosphere, while they felt nothing, it was not what you imagined. You were perceiving at a frequency they could not yet access. When you sensed the true intention hidden behind their words, they told you that you were thinking too deeply, but you were not. You were reading spiritual data, body language in the invisible realm, and traces of energy, things that are real but invisible to the physical eye. However, they could not acknowledge what they could not perceive. So they did to you the behavior humans commonly exhibit when faced with inexplicable situations. They treated you like a patient. They made you the cause of the problem. They attached every label to you: sensitivity, erratic intuition, paranoia, except for the spiritual discernment they lacked, which is its true identity. But there is something you must understand. This is not what makes you special. This is the twist. It is a fact I have not yet told you. You are not special. You are the first. Everything I just explained, that difference in frequency, spiritual perception, the ability to detect what others miss, is not a special gift given to only a select few. It is the basic operating system for believers. You are no exception. You are the first prototype of the wave coming to thousands. God did not choose you because you are more spiritual than others. You were placed at the very front because someone had to go first. Someone had to survive gaslighting, isolation, and endless doubts about their own sanity. Only then could you serve as a map for others when they begin to realize their spiritual awareness, and you are that map. You thought you were alone. You thought there was something wrong with you. This was because it seemed no one else was experiencing reality in the same way you were. But you were not broken. You simply arrived early, and those who arrive early are bound to feel lonely until others do. The letter does not end with mere acknowledgement. There is a third part, the activation code. It is an instruction on what to do now that you know you were right. This is because the resolution of a sense of injustice without direction is merely relief, and relief soon vanishes. What God gives you is not a simple confirmation that you are not insane. It is the authority to live in this new reality. However, before I show you what this activation code means, there is something you must understand. What is to come is not to be passive. This is not merely a matter of feeling better. This is about taking on a specific role. It is the role of a witness, not the one who has been cleared of the grievances. Being the one who has been cleared of the grievances is a transitional identity. Your final name is witness. You are the one who sees the truth for others when they cannot see it. And that means everything that happened to you, every moment they gaslighted you, every time they made you doubt yourself, was never wasted. It was training. It was training for that very moment when someone doubts their own cognitive abilities, you step forward and say, "No, you are not crazy. I see it too." Your affirmation will relieve them of years of suffering. That is why this letter has arrived now. Not because your suffering has finally drawn God's attention, but because your training has just ended and your mission is about to begin. However, there is something you have not told anyone yet. A part of you does not want this. A part of you is terribly afraid of being proven right. And that fear has a name. Shall we say it out loud? If they were wrong about you, you must forgive them. If you were right from the start, you must carry the responsibility they said you could not handle and move forward. If God restores your honor before people, you can no longer hide. You can no longer live a small life. You cannot use the reason you failed to become the person you ought to be as an excuse for their rejection. That is the real fear. It is not that you are afraid they will never apologize, but that you are afraid they will actually apologize. And when they do apologize, there will be no more finger-pointing left for you, and the legitimate reason to remain stagnant will vanish. The moment your existence is proven is the moment you must stand up. And for someone accustomed to living with their body hunched over, standing up is a terribly frightening thing. As you listen to this, you must feel something stirring inside your stomach. It is not guilt, nor is it shame. It is your soul recognizing the truth. Even as you prayed to God to clear your name, deep down you were hoping for a little longer. This is because while you waited to be proven right, you would not have to do anything that you would actually have to do since you were right. This is what I want you to understand. This fear is normal. It does not make you weak. It makes you human. Even Moses said, "Send someone else," when God called him to be a leader. He had every excuse, a speech impediment, a criminal record, a 40-year loss of practical experience, and so on. But God did not need his qualifications. He needed his availability. You are now ready to be used. That is why your restoration of honor is approaching. Not because you are ready in the sense you think you are, but because you have stopped running away from it. That stirring sensation, it is not a stop signal. It is the realization that your flesh is losing control and the rejoicing that your spirit will take over. Now let's talk about the practical aspects. What is actually happening in the spiritual world right now as you listen to these words? This is because restoration of honor is a process, not an emotion. And there are 3 gears in this process. The first gear is the collection of evidence. This has already happened. While you were suffering, while they were denying the facts, God was collecting data. Every conversation, every disregard, every moment they tried to reconstruct reality, all of these were classified, time-stamped, and stored in a place where they could not be altered or deleted. This gear finished turning the moment you let them go in your mind. The second gear is the shift in the spiritual atmosphere. This is happening right now. There is a shift in the spiritual pressure surrounding your situation. You may have noticed it this week. Something feels different. Conversations that used to torment you are no longer so. People over whom you could control your emotions now feel distant. This does not mean your emotions have become dulled. It means your spiritual atmosphere is shifting. You are moving from one frequency to another, and those who could not see you clearly at the previous frequency will not be able to catch up to you at the new one. The third gear is the continuous reaction of manifestation. This will begin within the next 2 hours. You will witness 3 specific events. First, someone who ignored you will reach out. It is not to apologize. They have not yet reached that stage. However, they will ask for your opinion on a certain matter. Second, information proving something you have been arguing for will surface. You do not need to bring it up. It will come to you. Third, while talking with someone, you will suddenly find yourself no longer caring whether they believe you or not. That moment will be the very moment you realize that the third gear has fully engaged. In Joel 2:25, God says, "I will repay you according to the number of years the great army I sent against you. The locusts, the neshe, the caterpillars, and the lentils have eaten." The Hebrew word translated here as repay is shalom. This does not simply mean returning something. It means repaying with interest, adding more on top of what has been made whole. You are not merely receiving back what they took away. You are receiving compensation for that time of waiting. However, there is a fact that most people miss. Restoration is accompanied by confrontation. The moment God begins to put everything back in its place, the enemy will try to scatter those pieces again. And the enemy has 5 forms of strategy to use during the coming 72 hours. I will tell you the names of each so that you can recognize and strike them in real time. The first form of attack is disorientation. While doing daily tasks such as brewing coffee or driving, you will suddenly feel as though time is dragging on. You will forget what you were doing. Your thoughts will scatter. This is not fire fog. This is a spirit of confusion trying to disrupt your newly gained clarity. If this attack comes, it will come. Do not fight it. Even if you are alone, speak out loud, "I recognize you and I reject you. My heart belongs to Christ." And keep moving. The second form is the temptation of isolation. Someone you trust may suddenly feel distant, or you may feel the urge to cancel all plans and stay only at home. The enemy knows that it is easier to ruin your reputation when you are alone. The enemy will try to convince you that being alone is safe. But it is not. It is becoming vulnerable. When you feel the urge to be put together, do the opposite. Contact someone. Even a single text message is fine. Being connected breaks that curse. The third form is the echo of false accusations. This is the most cruel. You will hear their past criticisms in your own voice. You will have thoughts that sound like your own voice but feel like theirs. I'm really too sensitive. I'm overreacting. Maybe they were right. These are not your thoughts. They are thoughts planted, disguised as your voice. The way to overcome them is to declare in a comment right now that this is not my voice, it is theirs. The fourth form is an attack of helplessness. One morning, you will wake up feeling nothing. No peace, just a sense of emptiness. It is as if someone has pulled your emotional plug. You will feel numb even when thinking about restoring your honor. It is a trick of the Spirit trying to steal your anticipation before a breakthrough occurs. Do not panic. Helplessness is merely fear in disguise. If possible, speak aloud to yourself. The reason I feel nothing is that something is about to change. This composure conveys the storm just before a breakthrough. The fifth form is the mental breakdown of delay. Things will happen that make it seem as though your restoration of honor has been postponed. Conversations will be canceled, people will not appear, or information will not arrive when expected. The enemy will whisper, "Look, nothing is happening. It was your fault for having hope." However, delay is not a rejection. It is a self-adjustment. God is fitting the final puzzle piece into place. This is to ensure that when it finally happens, no one can deny it. These 5 forms are not merely possibilities but certain facts. The enemy has no new strategies. He simply employs effective strategies. Ephesians 6:12 states, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Here, the Greek word for struggle is a legal precedent. This signifies hand-to-hand combat, a personal fight fought at close range. The approaching attack is not against your circumstances. It is an attack on your mind, your emotions, and your ability to hold fast to what God has just confirmed. But you are not defenseless. Every form of attack I just mentioned has a counterattack technique, and that counterattack is always the same: speaking the truth out loud. The enemy can plant thoughts, but he cannot silence your lips. When you speak, you block his approach. Now let me show you what it looks like when someone actually goes through this process. I will tell you her true story under the name Sarah, though not her real name. 6 months ago, she sat in a lawyer's office car with divorce papers on her lap. Her suspicions about her husband's infidelity were correct. Everyone said she was paranoid, making things up, or just jealous for no reason. But now she had the evidence. Bank statements, text messages, everything that could show them she wasn't crazy. However, as she sat there holding the envelope, she felt a sense of emptiness. It was not a sense of victory, but emptiness. Because she had realized something. She knew that even with evidence, they probably wouldn't apologize. They would find a way to shift the blame onto her somehow, claiming she pushed him away, that she was too suspicious, or that her frequent accusations caused the affair. Then she heard. It wasn't a voice she heard, but knowledge she knew with certainty deep within. God was speaking to her. What you need is not their apology. What I need is your peace. And your peace does not come from admitting they were wrong, but from knowing for yourself that I was right. In the end, she did not enter that office. Instead, she drove to a park and sat on a bench. And she spoke aloud to her past self, who had doubted her own sanity for the past 2 years. I am sorry for doubting you. I am sorry for letting them convince me that you were broken. You are not broken. You are seeing everything clearly, and I will stop going around apologizing to them for the fact that I have eyes. 3 days later, the gear appeared. Her husband's family contacted her. Not to apologize, but to ask if she could help with something they needed. They needed her expertise, the very expertise they had dismissed as obsession when she tried to warn them. 2 weeks later, the second gear turned. Her husband confessed the affair to a mutual friend. The timeline of the affair. Everything matched exactly what she had described. The friend, crying, spoke to her over the phone. I should have believed you. I'm so sorry. She replied, thank you, and she meant it. However, she no longer needed that apology. She had already received the most important apology, an apology from herself to herself. 90 days later, the third gear turned. She was having coffee with a new person. During the conversation, he threw out a remark that, in the past, would have severely provoked her. It sounded similar to the accusations of the past. But she felt nothing. She smiled as she drank her coffee, and the moment passed like the wind. Then she knew. She knew she was free. Luke 8:17 says, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and nothing concealed that will not be known and brought to light. Jesus spoke these words to his disciples in secret. He taught us that truth has a timeline. Truth is not buried forever. It rises to the surface again, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but eventually it will surely surface. And when that truth is revealed, those who buried it must make a choice, either acknowledge it or persist even more in denial of reality. Most people will choose the path of denying reality. This is because admitting that they were wrong is tantamount to admitting that they intentionally hurt you. And that is much harder than continuing to lie. However, there is a twist here. By the time the truth surfaces, you will no longer need their acknowledgement. This is because God has already given you His approval. And His approval is the only thing that has the power to heal you. Now that you have realized that only God's approval matters, you must understand what happens next. This is precisely where most people ruin their own restoration of honor. After receiving confirmation from God and feeling a change, they immediately engage in 3 actions that destroy everything. I will now tell you what those 3 actions are. And from this moment on, you are forbidden from doing them. The first forbidden action is trying to explain yourself to people who have already decided in their hearts what kind of person you are. You know who they are. They have already made their decision. They have chosen their own story. And no matter what evidence you bring, their minds will not change. This is because they are not confused. They are thoroughly loyal to lies. Yet, this is what you have been doing. You walked into a conversation with them, carrying your excuses like a briefcase. You are ready to defend your position the moment they show a weakness. You practice and refine it, thinking, If I speak properly this time, they will finally understand. No, they will never understand. And you must stop that attempt immediately. Every time you try to explain yourself to someone who has already condemned you, you are essentially handing them a new weapon of attack. They are not listening to understand. They are listening to reload. They take your words, twist them slightly, and use them to reinforce their original narrative about you. So your new guideline is this. From this moment on, whenever you feel the urge to defend yourself, explain, and make them understand welling up, imagine a sonic button installed in your throat. It is not a button to silence you, but a button to protect you. Feel that button activate when your mouth is about to open, when words hover at the corners of your lips. The Holy Spirit presses that button, saying, "They are not asking to understand. They are asking to gather information." Listen to them whispering. Then stop, even in the middle of the conversation, and turn away. Not with anger, but with authority. With the authority of someone who no longer needs the consent of others to know what is real. Isaiah 54:17 says, "Every weapon made against you will be useless. Every tongue that accuses you will be condemned by me." The Hebrew word translated here as condemn is rashia. This does not mean to argue. It means to declare guilty, to pass judgment. You are not called to argue with every lying tongue one by one. You are called to declare that it is false and to continue on your path. It is not an excuse, but a declaration in a single sentence. The second forbidden action is spying on them. It is scrolling through their social media, asking mutual acquaintances how they are doing, and monitoring their lives to see when karmic retribution will come upon them. Even if not every day, you have likely been engaging in this behavior. And that behavior keeps you bound to them in terms of energy. Every time you check on them, a connection is created where your energy flows toward them rather than toward your future. The enemy uses that connection to send jamming signals back to you. Thoughts like, "They are doing well," "They are happy," "They are living well without any punishment," or "Maybe God has forgotten." God has not forgotten. However, He wants you to let go first. This does not mean forgiveness in the sense they perceive it, but rather releasing them from the surveillance network within your heart. Stop watching their lives to see if justice is served. Your mission is not to watch. Your mission is to move forward. You cannot move forward while looking back. The third forbidden behavior is breaking down boundaries to maintain a relationship. You have engaged in this behavior as well. Someone who hurt you wants to re-enter your life. And instead of saying no, you say okay with conditions attached. You open yourself up while remaining on guard. You allow contact while under control. And you think that is wise. No. It is an emotional drain disguised as grace. This is because maintaining conditional boundaries requires more energy than having no boundaries at all. You end up constantly watching. Are they keeping this line? Did they cross that line? Did they just test their limits? It is like a second job you didn't even apply for. You must listen to this. Some people should not be left open. They must be hurt. They must be hurt. And that is not an inability to forgive. It is stewardship. You are the steward guarding your peace. And peace does not negotiate with those who have already proven they will break the peace. Now let me tell you about your new name. Earlier, I said that the one whose grievances have been cleared is in a transitional phase. That is not your final identity. Your final name is something else. When you hear what that name is, you will understand why everything that happened to you was necessary. Revelation 21:17 says, "To him who overcomes, I will give the hidden manna and a white sword, on which a new name is written, which no one knows except the one who receives it." In ancient Rome, the white stone was a symbol of grace. It granted the authority to access places that commoners could not go. It proved that one was under protection, a person bearing a mark. God is giving you a white sword, and the name written on it is not that of someone whose grievances have been cleared. It was the name during your trial process, the name that revealed your innocence from false accusations. But now the trial is over. The verdict has been delivered. And after the trial, your name is different. Your new name is witness. Not someone whose grievances have been cleared, but a witness. One who has witnessed. Now, you are someone who can see for others what they cannot see themselves. Do you know why this is important? Everything they did to you, all those moments of gaslighting, all the times they made you doubt your cognitive abilities. It was not a simple attack. It was training. This was training for the very specific skills you need to acquire for what lies ahead. This is because now, when someone doubts their own integrity, when someone asks, "Am I imagining this? Am I being too sensitive? Am I crazy?" You will be able to say with perfect authority, "No, that is not the case. I see it too. I know what it feels like to be told you are wrong, even though you are seeing everything clearly." Your confirmation will save them years of doubting themselves, years of counseling to unravel the tangled threads of reality, and years of agonizing over whether they can trust their own cognitive abilities. Your single sentence, "I see it too," will do for them what the letter written by God has just done for you. That is your mission, following your restoration of honor. That is why you had to go through this, not as punishment, but as preparation. Divine Witness Mode is your new operating system. And within it are 5 behavioral guidelines to replace the 3 forbidden actions I mentioned earlier. The first action is selective speech. You no longer explain things to everyone. You speak only to those whose spirits are open. And you will come to know who those people are, because they will ask questions filled with genuine curiosity, not in an interrogative tone. Instead of asking, "How can you think that?" they will say, "Can you help me understand?" Speak only to them. Remain silent to everyone else. The second action is prophetic observation. You no longer react to what people say. You observe which spirit is manipulating them behind their words. When you converse with someone, you will listen to their words, but you will see through the fear, the desire to control, or the intention to manipulate behind them. And instead of fighting their words, you will deal with the spirit behind them. Sometimes you will do this out loud, sometimes only in prayer, but you will no longer engage in superficial battles. The third action is acting as an energy steward. You protect your energy thoroughly, just like currency, because it is actually valuable. You no longer expend emotional energy on people and situations that are not bearing fruit. You do not argue. You do not defend. You do not persuade. You simply redirect your energy toward where you are truly growing. Now, I will tell you when these changes will begin to appear. This is because God does not work vaguely, saying, someday. He works according to a specific timeline, and your timeline has just been activated. Within the next 2 hours, you will receive some confirmation. It will not be dramatic. It will come quietly. However, due to the timing, you will know that it is from God. Someone will send you words or a message that echo exactly what you just heard in this video. Watch carefully. That is your first sign. If you remember this moment, leave a comment saying 70. Within 21 days, someone who ignored you will reach out. Let me make it clear, they are not coming to apologize. They are not at that stage yet. However, they will contact you for some reason. They will want your help, your advice, and your expertise. That very knowledge they called delusions of grandeur when you tried to warn them. This is what you must do at this point. If your spirit says yes, help them. However, do not remind them that you were right. Do not say, I told you back then. Just help them and move on. This is because your restoration of honor is not completed by their acknowledgement. It is already completed. Within 90 days, you will face a decisive moment. It is a moment when someone says words that would have destroyed you in the past, yet you feel no emotion. You will not feel numbness, but a sense of completeness. It is as if that wound has finally been stitched up. And at that moment, you will realize that you have become free. Not free from those people, but free from the need for them to see you clearly. That is the sign of the 90 days. Habakkuk 2 verse 3 says, There is a set time for this prophecy, and its conclusion will come quickly. It will by no means be false. Though it may be delayed, wait for it. It will surely come to pass without delay. The Hebrew word here, signifying the set time, is moed. This does not refer to an approximate time, but to a fixed, designated, and scheduled time. It is like a promise already written in the calendar that you absolutely cannot miss. The time set for you is not approaching. It has already arrived the moment you accepted the letter written by God. Everything that happens from now on is merely the process of the physical world catching up to what has already occurred in the spiritual world. The verdict has already been passed. Now only its manifestation in the three-dimensional reality remains. However, there is one word of warning. You must listen to it. There is a trap that opens the very moment your honor is restored, and 80% of people fall into it. That trap is weaponization. It is the temptation to use your restoration of honor as an offensive weapon against them. There will be moments when opportunity comes your way. The time will come when they become vulnerable, their true nature is revealed, or they are caught by their own lies. At that moment, something within you will whisper, "Now is the chance." Make them feel what you felt. Make them hurt just as much as they hurt me. That whisper is not justice. It is the voice of the wounded self within you, who has not yet read the full contents of the letter. This is because the restoration of God's honor is not about them suffering. It is about you becoming free. If you weaponize it, you are merely imprisoning yourself again. You will transform into the very image they framed you with, a person full of bitterness, burning with vengeance, and unable to let go of the past. Romans 12:19 says, "Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, 'Vengeance belongs to me, I will repay,' says the Lord." Here, the Greek word for to punish is sko. This means not merely punishing, but fully executing justice, completely restoring honor, and furthermore, restoring the balance of the entire situation. God's vengeance is not childish. Its purpose is not to hurt them. It is to balance the scales. That is why sometimes it may appear as though they are prospering while you are being healed. This is because what they need is not punishment, but the realization of their sin. And that piercing comes not when you offer the truth right before their noses, but from the Holy Spirit. Therefore, when that moment of opportunity arrives, when you have the chance to twist your collar and make them wretched just as they made you wretched, please examine your heart. Is your heart warm, or is it cold? Coldness signifies righteousness. Coldness signifies vengeance. If it is cold, turn around and walk away. If it is warm, even if evil speaks only the truth, still turn around and walk away. For your mission is not to punish them. Your mission is to be free from them. And freedom does not look back to become free. Freedom looks forward and keeps walking. Isaiah 43 says, "Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I shall do a new thing, now it shall be revealed." Do you not know it? God is asking you a question. Do you not know it? The new thing, the change in the atmosphere surrounding you. If you perceive it, you are ready to receive what comes next. If you do not feel it yet, stay here. Rewind this video and listen again. Because what is to come requires you to live with a new identity, not with old wounds. 6 months from now, you will be in a very ordinary place, like a coffee shop or a grocery store. And you will have a conversation with someone you just met. They will toss out a very trivial remark as if passing by. But that remark will be the very trigger that would have shattered you into pieces in the past. Yet you will feel nothing. It is not because your emotions have dulled, but because the wound has completely healed. And at that moment, you will smile. Not toward them, but toward yourself. You will smile at the changed version of yourself who, having overcome what you went through, ultimately remained uncruel. That will be the moment you realize that your restoration of honor is complete. It is not the time for them to apologize, nor is it the time for everyone to realize that you were right. It is the moment you realize that you no longer need such things. Because God has already given you the most important things, the self you had lost, your peace, and the ability to trust your own self-awareness. Once you regain these, they cannot touch you, whether they say it or not. I will paint a clearer picture of the coffee shop moment I mentioned so that you can recognize it when you arrive. You are sitting by a window bathed in afternoon sunlight. You have ordered not just a safe choice, but something you truly wanted to eat. Then, the person sitting across from you, a friend, coworker, or someone you just met through some situation, casually brings up a topic. They might say something like, "People these days are too sensitive," or "Everyone gets upset over trivial matters." If this were 6 months ago, those words would have pierced your heart like a fist. You would have felt your throat tighten. Your mind would have immediately recalled the criticism and disregard directed at you, and you would have either defended your sensitivity or shut your mouth and seethed inside. However, 6 months later, at this moment, you feel nothing. It is not a sense of urgency, but lightness. You take a sip of coffee, put on a genuine smile rather than a forced one, and speak softly yet clearly. I think sensitivity is simply cognitive ability operating at its maximum. After all, some people are created to feel more so that they can see more. And that moment passes. You realize that you do not care whether the other person agrees or not. This is because you are neither trying to persuade nor defend yourself. You are standing on such a solid ground that their reaction cannot shake you. That is freedom. That is the opposite side of having your grievances completely resolved. It is not about raising your voice, but about your heart becoming lighter. You will leave the coffee shop and get into a car. And before you start driving, you will sit there for a moment. Not out of distress, but out of wonder. You are amazed by yourself, the self that survived gaslighting and did not become cruel, the self that did not use the proven truth as a weapon, the self that has become free and maintains that freedom. In that version, you have already been written, already determined, and are already appearing. Now, all that remains for you is to walk into that already prepared form. Now, we are going to do something different. What follows is not prayer. At least, it is not the kind of prayer you are familiar with. This is an activation rite, a sealing rite. There is a difference here. Prayer is supplication, but a rite is establishment. Prayer is wishing, but a rite is proclamation. What we must do from now on is to further clothe and proclaim upon you what God has already declared in the letter. We are to formalize it in this physical world. So I hope you are ready. Please focus on the present. Now do this. If possible, straighten your posture. If you are lying down, that is fine. However, bring your consciousness to your body. Feel the sensation of touching the surface, supporting your back. That pressure. That is your foundation. You are being supported, both physically and spiritually. If you are wearing shoes, imagine taking them off in your mind. Not physically, but mentally. Visualize untying your shoelaces or throwing off your shoes. This is because the place you are coming to next is holy ground. Exodus 3 verse 5 says, "The place where you are standing is holy ground. Take off your sandals." Moses did not know he was in holy ground until God spoke. You may not have known either, but right now you are in holy ground. This room, this car, this space where you are, that place has just become a sacred place. Not because of the place itself, but because of what is about to happen there. The heavens are opening above you right now. The veil between the visible and the invisible is thinning. And what I am about to proclaim is not merely words. It is a transmission, a transfer of authority conveyed from the mouth of God through my voice to your spirit. So please do one more thing in your heart. Place both hands on your chest. Not physically, but spiritually. Feel the warmth of the two hands pressing against your chest. Feel the heartbeat beneath them. It is not a random rhythm. It is the signature at the very bottom of that letter. Your pulse is your consent. You are here. You are alive. In the name of Yeshua Jesus Christ, the righteous judge and the lover of my soul, I am now at this moment where heaven and earth meet. The veil has thinned, the court has opened, and the verdict has been pronounced. You are not guilty. You are not insane. You are not sensitive or peculiar. Beloved is mine, a witness. Father, this chosen one standing before the Lord now desires that you know that he heard the letter. They received the letter. They received it not with their ears, but with their whole bodies. When the Lord spoke of that parking lot, their hearts tightened. When he mentioned the tears of the 3 a.m. star, their throats choked. When he brought out the toilet stall, their stomachs churned. They know this is real. They know that the Lord saw it. So now I bring their confession to the Lord. The Lord saw everything they bore alone, all the nights they buried their faces in pillows and wept so no one could hear, the times they went out into the world every morning wearing masks pretending to be okay, the conversations they had to endure biting their lips until their tongues bled, every moment they apologized for even existing. And all those times they made themselves infinitely small, trying to force themselves into a space that was not meant for them. The Lord recorded it all. And today, they give it to the Lord not to hold on to it forever, but to change it. Father, the Lord witnessed the scene of that gaslighting. The Lord was there when they were told that their perceptions were wrong, their emotions were invalid, and their truth was merely an imagination. The Lord heard the sound of them doubting their own mental state in the darkness. He felt their confusion, thinking that perhaps everyone else was right and that they themselves might be the problem. But the Lord never once agreed with that lie. Not once. The Lord kept safe the original version that truly saw them clearly. And today, He is returning it. Now He seals what has been taught. He seals that letter beginning with my beloved, with their names written on it. He seals the frequency tuning model. He seals the understanding that they are not broken, but merely tuned differently. He seals the 3-gear system of restoration of honor. Evidence gathering, the change in spiritual atmosphere, the continuous response of manifestations. All 3 gears are turning. Sealing 5 forms of attack and the counterattacks against each: disorientation, isolation, false accusation, helplessness, and delay. They know how to recognize these. They know how to defeat them. Sealing 3 forbidden behaviors. They will not explain to those whose hearts are already wounded. They will no longer spy on them. And they will no longer lower their guard to maintain relationships. These behaviors are now locked within their operating systems. Sealing the new name Witness, the one who sees on behalf of those who are not the one whose honor has been restored, and who sees what others cannot. Sealing all divine witnesses and the 5 accompanying guidelines of conduct. And binding all dark spirits that attempted to intercept this message, the spirit of confusion that whispered what they imagined, the spirit of false accusation that distorted their words, the spirit of isolation that made them loners, the spirit of self-doubt that made them doubt their own perceptions. I declare that all these spirits have lost control over the mind, memory, and identity of this chosen one. They can no longer approach, and there is no hole to enter. The door is firmly locked. The first confirmation arrives within the first 2 hours. It will not be dramatic, but quiet, yet it will undoubtedly be. Someone will speak or send words that resonate with this message. And when that happens, they will know. It is the Lord the Father. That is the first sign. Within 21 days, someone who ignored them will contact them. Not to apologize, but to ask for help. And if their spirit permits, they will help. However, they will not remind them, nor will they be intimidated, nor will they be weaponized. This is because the restoration of their reputation does not require the recognition of others. It is already complete. Within 90 days, they will experience the coffee shop moment. The trigger that used to be a trigger will no longer be a trigger. The wound will finally heal, and they will realize that they are free. Freedom not from those people, but from the desire for those people to see them clearly. That is the sign of the 90 days. At that time, they will realize that this was not merely emotional comfort, but a true transformation. I proclaim that all the years devoured by locusts are being restored with interest. What was stolen is returning doubled. What was delayed is accelerating. What was hidden is being revealed. Injustices that were ignored are being resolved. It is not for revenge, but for restoration. It is not to prove them wrong, but to make this chosen one whole. I proclaim to them the identity of witnesses. From today, they will live with the authority to see the truth for those who cannot see the truth for themselves. Their confirmation will reduce the painful time of countless people. A single word from them, saying, "I see it too," will heal wounds that even counseling could not resolve. This is not a burden. This is a mission. Because they endured that time when others would have collapsed, they are qualified to fulfill this mission. 2 Corinthians 1:22 says, "He also sealed us and gave us the Holy Spirit as a guarantee in our hearts." Here, the Greek word for seal is iso. It signifies leaving a mark with a signet ring, proving authenticity and protecting it. God has just stamped His seal upon this chosen one. His signature, the mark of His ownership and protection. No one can break what He has sealed. No one can challenge what He has proven to be genuine. Now I ask you one thing. You must answer. Answer not to me, but to heaven. Are you ready to bear this? Not the temporary title of one whose grievances have been cleared, but the name of witness, one who sees, one who confirms for others what they are afraid to believe for themselves, one who can say, "You are not crazy, I see it too." Are you ready to fulfill that role for those who will follow in your footsteps and realize spiritual perception, yet have no one to acknowledge them? Answer yes out loud right now. Even if you are alone, even if it feels a little awkward, say yes out loud. Heaven heard the sound. It was recorded. You have been appointed. You have agreed to what was already the truth. You did not create this calling. You simply accepted it. And the moment you accepted it, everything changed. Your spiritual rank has just changed. You are no longer a defendant. You are a witness. A witness possesses authority that a defendant lacks. You now have the authority to testify on behalf of the absolute truth, not just your own. Listen carefully to my words. You have been freed from the burden of proof. You have been released from the courtroom. The verdict has been delivered. The case is closed. You no longer need to defend yourself. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to persuade anyone. That chapter is over. Walk out with your head held high. Do not look back. Do not stop at the door to see if they are watching. Do not linger to hear what they have to say about the verdict. Just walk out. You have been freed from the wilderness. You have been released from the waiting room. You have been discharged from the hospital where you had to struggle to heal, even while still being hurt by those who wounded you. You are free. It is not someday, but today, right now, this very moment. The moment you hear these words, the chains are breaking. This is not a metaphor. The chains that bound you in the spiritual world to their opinions, their approval, and the stories they created have actually broken. Listen to the sound of those chains hitting the floor, and do not say amen yet. Do not rush to end this time as if wrapping it with a pretty ribbon. Remain in this silence for 30 seconds. Let this truth take root. Feel the change within your heart, where space has opened up where the heavy burden once was. It is not emptiness. It is space. It is space for the new work God has said He will do. It is space for your new self, which does not need their approval. It is space for a witness to rise and take their place. It is right now.